Thank you so much for coming out to the Flagstaff Public Library this evening for our community living room. When the rug is out, the living room is in. That's what we say. It's our symbolic rug. We like to keep this program really informal, just invite somebody from the community who is cool, got something going on, something worth saying. And I've outdone myself this time with Jill. Actually, I have had such amazing people here in the past too, Shanta Begay and George Breed, and just wonderful people. So this is a monthly program, the first Wednesday of every night. Again, thank you so much for supporting your public library in this way. Just one thing before I hand it over. On that ledge there are some surveys for the end of the program. We especially like to, we like to hear your thoughts, and we like to know where you heard about this. And if you have anybody who you think would make a great guest, you can write that in there as well. So again, I'm Pam Packard. I work here at the information desk, and I do the interlibrary loan for the library, and I have the great honor of running this program once a month, which really is just a different thing than doing interlibrary loan, where I'm sending books. It's all very detailed, and this is just creative and joyful and a real community celebration. So thank you for being here. The guest tonight is Jill Devine, and I usually don't do much in the way of introduction because I leave it to the guest. So thank you for being here, Jill.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. Hi. Wow, it's really cool to be here, and I am seeing some people I haven't seen for a long time, and that really fills my heart. So I love, I love doing this. When Pam called and invited me to do this, I had some reservations because I thought I've had a really odd year, and I thought, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know how this is gonna go, and so I just talked to her about it, and this is called the community living room. And we talked about it a little bit, and I said, I might cry. And she said, who cares? Go ahead. And it was like, yes, that was what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear that this was actually like a community living room. Like, we're gonna hang out and maybe talk a little bit. I'm gonna read a few poems. I've never done anything like this before. Normally, if I'm asked to read somewhere, I come equipped with a book and maybe a couple new poems. And then I get up and I read poems. And then I sit down and I'm done. and I don't have to actually say much. So tonight I brought a script because I didn't want to forget some things. And so first I'm going to tell you what I went through. Because, no. See, if there were a lot of people here, I'd feel so weird right now, and I don't. So what I first want to say is that, do y'all know what a tagline is? Have you ever heard of a tagline? Okay. So when I told her, yes, I would do this, I would love to do it, and she said, okay, send me a tagline. Send me your tagline. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to say about myself. I don't really know what I do or who I am. So what am I gonna write? And so I sat there, and I even looked it up in the dictionary, like tagline. There's gotta be some clues here that are really gonna do this for me, and nothing would. So I had to come up with something. And so I just wrote these, I wrote it out, and I thought, well, there's my tagline. And it was poet, traveler, instigator, truth seeker. And that was my tagline. And I thought, really? I think that's who I am. I think that's what I do. So I had my tagline. So then when I thought, well, community living room, what am I gonna talk about? I guess I could just read, but I kind of wanted to talk too, because I have some things that are on my mind. So I thought I should address each of those 4 things. So I'm going to. And I'm going to start with poet, I'm just going to read one poem, and this is a poem that I wrote a long, long time ago. It's the only poem I'm going to read out of this book. I have a couple new things, but I'm going to read this one from a long time ago. And one of the reasons why I used to read it every time I would read. And James J., he's a poet in town, and he called it my free bird, because it was like I play it every single concert. So I'm going to read this, and also it's really relevant to some things going on. It's called Current. I jump in, the water covers me. I am being born. The water is air. I start to swim. I start to cry. I keep swimming. Some things die, but mostly things grow. Marigolds at the side of the house. Puppies from the hunting dog that lives in the backyard. When I hurt, my mother says I have growing pains. I'm not popular, but I'm not the outcast. I'm not smart, but I'm not the idiot. I'm not even swimming really. I'm doing the dog paddle. I stay afloat. In the 6th grade, I have knobby knees and long hair. I'm embarrassed most of the time in a general way. I sit outside at night and watch Venus rise. I go to Dairy Queen with my mom and dad. I keep swimming. Things are still dying or growing. I go to movies. I try a sip of bourbon. I get my high school pictures back. I shake the water out of my eyes. People swim alongside me sometimes, but mostly they don't. The water flows so fast. I choke on air. I love moving. Sometimes I'm so tired, I don't move at all. Some days I go back. Some days I go forward, but I keep swimming. I write letters. I like the taste of stamps. I miss my mom and dad, but I live far away and don't call. I'm in a big place. I worry about freeway shootings. I swim away. I live where things are covered in fog. I can't tell the difference between the growing and the dying. I play pool or shop for postcards. I may still be having growing pains. I may be drowning. I may just be plain and average. I moved to a small place. I never drink champagne. I date sad men. I like addicts. I read books. I practice blowing out birthday candles. One day, I grow legs. I walk on land. I'm still not popular, but I'm still not the outcast. Once in a while, I have sex appeal. I watch my parents get old. I talk to them every day. I become patient. I understand the importance of photographs. I grow vegetables in my backyard. I keep walking. Sometimes I close my eyes when I eat. I chuckle when I'm by myself. I find people to walk with. I dance in the living room. I have a child. He is swimming. Thank you. So that one I wrote a long, long time ago. And I think that it's relevant because we all just must keep swimming, because things happen and we feel like we're gonna drown, but we keep swimming. So, so I want to tell you about what happened over this year, because it will happen to everyone. It will happen to everyone, and it's something that I feel like I learned so many things from also. But my partner of almost 5 years was diagnosed with leukemia this last June. And he passed away about 2 months ago. And there is such a journey in that where you learn so many things. You care so much. You think you are going to stop swimming. You think that you're just gonna lay on your back and float away. And then you don't, because there are other people that you have, that are close to you, that you love. And just trying to get through that grief, it made me really take a hard look at grief and about what that is and about what you need. And it also made me really look at caregiving the most. And caregiving is something that I just wanted to say a couple things about, because if we are lucky in life, we will be a caregiver for someone. We will take care of someone that we love. And I found, so first we were in Mayo. No, first we were in Honor Health down in Phoenix. Then we were in Mayo in Phoenix. And then we were at MD Anderson in Houston. So we were all at these different hospitals. And they all had folks that came around and to talk to me about the self-care of the caregiver and how you must be taking care of yourself. And this is just my opinion, but I gotta say it, I gotta tell people this because it was so important to me. It's a myth, man. To think that if you're gonna be a solid caregiver, that you're gonna have a lot of self-care, like what? I'm gonna take a hot bath and, go out to eat? No, to me, what people miss is the sacrifice. And the sacrifice is beautiful. So that's, to me, what caregiving is. And that for a while, because I think that we sometimes sell ourselves short as humans, we can give up our self-care for a bit, for some time. If we're caring about a person we love and they need our care. And so I think this is in my instigator part. I had the poet, I had the instigator. I think this is the instigator, because at every hospital I went to, I had people that came in to talk to me about caregiving. And every time I would listen to them, and they were all so kind, and they were so good-hearted, and they were wonderful, wonderful people. But at the end of their thing about that, I had to make sure I was giving myself a lot of self-care. It was like, no, I just find it to be a myth. I'm gonna sacrifice instead. And I know that you can do both, but my self-care consisted of brushing my teeth once a day. And that was my self-care. Because I needed to be there and present and a part of this man's journey, because I still got to go home at night and he was in the hospital, and it's scary and it's lonely. So that was an 8-hour-a-day deal most days to play. Gosh, we played cards, I read books to him, we talked about everything, and everything in my life I kind of let go of for a while. And what I realized from all this journey is that was a very important thing for me, to let go of that, because it was the self-care that I really didn't need. I'm okay. We're all okay. We all have hard times. We all have struggles. But self-care, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but I like to share it with the people, is that my opinion is we can wait for our self-care, but our sacrifice is necessary to help that person. So, I'm gonna read another poem. Oh, and then I'm gonna go over Traveler, because that was another one of my 4. Okay, this one is, this is a new poem. It's called Hereafter. There's a storm coming. The trees are blowing themselves around while the sky is a pale shade of phoenix monsoon blue. And I'm thinking about giving you a shower. A bag of chemo, the antibiotic bag, and the fluids of who knows what get disconnected by the nurse, the one who moves frantic about the room. Her eyes are always looking out the window. It takes 20 minutes for the water to warm. Now you sit on a green plastic chair, the vinyl curtain touching your arm, water spray hitting your knees. Bright speckles of rash cover your back, your chest, and most of your thighs. Your ankles are swollen. You'll wear a beanie when we're done to warm up. I soak the parts of you I know, which are everything. I wash your hair, and the strands wrap around my fingers and then get deposited on the edge of the tub. I never liked loose hairs, but I ponder at yours on the edge of the bath, after the shower, and before the uncertain days to come. I admire the beautiful brown ringlets released. So, to me, that's about sacrifice. That's how I spent my days, and that's what my love needed, was that. And so I went through Instigator, and I started on Poet, and I'm just gonna say Traveler for a minute because it's short but sweet. And Traveler is just travel. Travel all you can. Get out there, see other places. I'm gonna tell you one travel experience I had that will be with me for the rest of my life. And that's when I took my son on a 37-day road trip in between his junior and senior year of high school. And we drove to New York City. And we stayed in Airbnbs. We got a blow-up mattress, a single blow-up mattress. We would rent one room. I would have the single bed. He would be on the floor. We packed a cooler with bread and meat and cheese and Chipotle mayonnaise. And I will tell you now that that Chipotle mayonnaise saved my life because it tasted so good, even though the bread and meat and cheese got really old, but that Chipotle mayonnaise kept me going. And that was the thing about the travel, is that my son, who was 17 at the time, he got to see a whole new world in Flagstaff. And that was crucial. I thought that was really good for him, for his growth. We were in Harlem, you know, and for him, that was scary at the time. And by the time we were done with our trip, and we'd stayed in the Bronx for 3 days, then we stayed in Manhattan for like 4, and we'd been in DC, and we'd been all over the place. He was different. He was okay with people. He liked people better after that trip. He was not as afraid after that trip of what was out there in the world. And so, and it was probably me too. I mean, I probably have got that too. But so travel all you can. Get a tent, a good tent. Or car camp, whatever. But man, it's good. Huh?
And the mayonnaise.
Yeah. So yeah, don't forget the Chipotle mayonnaise. So that was Traveler, and then Truth Seeker is the other one. And I think that one I probably have the least information about why I chose it, except for I love the truth. I love people's truth. I love who we are. I was always embarrassed, I think, somewhat. And I even say it in that one poem. I was always embarrassed in a general way. And I think that that's just how it is sometimes with people. And the best way for me to deal with that is to just be this thing and be honest when I speak and to work to invite other people's honesty in. So, so I think that that's kind of what that's about, and I would like to read you another poem. It's called Crimnophobia Blues. Does anyone know what crimnophobia is? Okay, so I was invited about 2 years ago to be a part of this Contain Your Fears exhibit, and I was the only poet, so it's a bunch of artwork, and then someone made a copy of my poem on like huge, and it's on the wall in these different art galleries, and it was all about our fears, like contain your fear. How do you contain your fear? What is your fear? And the director sent out a list of fears, and crimnophobia is fear of precipice, or fear of an edge, the edge. I always thought I had a fear of heights, but I didn't. I have a fear of the edge. I have a fear of the precipice, of falling off. And so I wrote this poem called Crimnophobia Blues. I write about rooftops. If you want, you can read about how many people die in the Grand Canyon. Read about how many jump off the tops of parking garages. I thought about holding a pillow over my mother's face in the old folks' home when she became memory sick. She made me promise years before that I would, but I couldn't. She was breathing so quiet, I could only watch the sweet movement of diaphanous skin rise and fall as my eyes leaked onto the sheet while I held the pillow to my chest. There is always and only one step to take from the edge into the air. I know I am damaged because I am pulled to the precipice. Still, I could never lift my feet freely off the garage roof, holding an umbrella like my friends. Were they flying or falling? I could never tell. Most of the deaths in the canyon happened because of heart attack or dehydration, not leaping. But still, some leap. Is that what love is? A step off a ledge, promises to keep or not. A rooftop in summer, unsure but decided. One more thing. Well, I'm checking my script. Hold on. See, I wanted to make sure that I went over the caregiving thing, because I think that's important. Oh, and also, this is the other thing, though, about that. If you do suffer from grief, if you have grief, because grief is so big, and it's so huge, and grief doesn't really go away. Grief will, like, maybe shrink a little bit as time goes on, but you're always going to carry it with you. But if anyone is suffering from grief, or you know someone suffering from grief, please encourage them to reach out, and because talking about things always helps, and you can find people to reach out to and talk to, and grief is just one of those things that can really hurt your insides too, if you don't get that out of your body. So that was my other thing. And haiku. Does anybody know what a haiku is? Okay, haiku. The only real rules are 17 syllables, 3 lines, 5, 7, and 5. Do y'all know what a syllable is? Although really, I don't think it's fair for me to ask that question, because if somebody doesn't know, who's gonna say, yeah, I don't know? Nobody's even gonna say that. So I'm just gonna say, and you just clap it out. So, Jill, okay. Janet. So you see, like each one of those is a syllable. And I know that all you guys know that, but I just like to, Pam told me I could swear if I wanted to, and I just almost said I just want to fuck with you. But anyways, sorry. So anyway, I write haiku, and I started writing them in January, on January 1st. And I started writing them because I was feeling like maybe maybe this was my self-care. Because I felt like I was kind of losing myself in everything that was happening. I was doing a lot. And so I felt like I needed to have something to commit to, something to do, a discipline, so to speak. I had to have a discipline that I adhered to every day, a commitment. And so, and a lot of people bash Facebook, but I'll tell you what, I know a lot of people on Facebook, and I'm so happy about it. And I like it, it's like I got friends. And so I used to, this was before the pandemic, and I would do something like I do a quote a day, and I would do it for the whole year. And I'd start on January 1st, and I'd do it for 365 days. And then I would do something else, and I did that several years. And so I decided this last January that I was gonna write a haiku a day. 365 haiku, that's crazy, really. But it was a discipline, and I had to do it. And there are nights that I'm up at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I am falling asleep on my computer, in bed. I'm in bed, I'm like, I got my little laptop, and I'm like nodding off, and I just gotta write that, I just gotta write it. And so I do it. And the best thing it's done for me is to know that it doesn't have to be good all the time. That's not a requirement of a haiku. It's only 17 syllables. That's it. That's the outline of a haiku. So I've been doing that, and sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're just senseless, and it doesn't matter, because the only thing that matters is the doing, which I realized this year is the only thing that matters is the action. Words can be great, but they don't always matter, and actions are what matters. So I'm writing my haiku, and I'm gonna read you 3. And I like to title my haiku because I think that a title gives you a clue. Untitled is not a title. And so this is called JO4. Karate chops in the living room, serious face. Armchair, take heed. Grandma. Slicing cantaloupe at the table. My mama feeds love to my son. My last one, luminous. Inside us all, a whole galaxy, shimmers of stars and senseless hope. So thank you all for being here. You seriously have no idea how much it means to me that y'all showed up, because it's the action, and it made my night.
You'll take questions?
I would I'll take questions on anything.
Okay.
Any possible thing you have a question about in the whole world, not just what I went over tonight, so. Yes, I'm gonna vote for you again.
Well, just as far as your writing goes and becoming a poet, when did you know that was going to be how you spent some time? Did you grow up writing poems, or what called you to it? And yeah.
I think I started writing like at 13 or 14, And then I remember when I was about 15, I'd written this poem, and my dad, so I had a purse, and for a girl, a 15-year-old girl, you do not get into that purse if you are a parent. You just don't. You know, it's like some kids hide some things. I was hiding poems. And so I remember my dad just saying very calmly to me one evening, well, I read that poem that's in your purse, and it's really good. My dad knew nothing about poetry. He's like, I read that poem that's in your purse. And he was like, what? What? You got in my purse? And I was furious. And I think it was probably another 2 years before I heard him say in my head, it was really good. And I feel like really writing poetry is my only calling, and teaching poetry. I feel like it's an outlet for me, for people, and I love to teach it. I love to be, I taught poetry at the jail for about 7 years to the wonderful women in the Exodus program, and that was truly my dream job. And what that does is it's like it takes, and for me too, it takes the yuck that's in my head and my heart and my guts, and it comes down and it filters out your arm and it goes into your hand, and then you write this stuff, and then you feel better, you feel okay. And I love that about poetry. And I suppose that could be said about any writing. But I feel like poetry is the one consistent that I've had in my life, and that it will probably continue on, always. So, thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Jill. I have one comment and one question.
Okay.
My first comment is a dear friend of mine got into poetry through your program at the jail, and it brought probably copious amounts of hours of entertainment for me, interacting with those poems, and then sometimes like reality checks. When people express themselves through words, it's really it ignites the mind in so many different ways. So thanks to you, I have had my mind ignited through a second part. So my second question, or the question is, while caregiving, did you ever stop loving them, but still continue to do the things you wanted to do to help them? Because at a certain point, it becomes a lot. I really don't know.
So I never stopped loving him, but I got angry. So, because you can love someone through anger, even intense anger. You can still have a great love for them. But I felt like that I came to a point where I got angry about stuff, and I wasn't even sure who I was angry at. Like, I wasn't really angry at him, but I was angry at the circumstances. But then I did find that I would be more angry at little things he said, like little things that never would have bothered me before. It's like, just that kind of, like, it wasn't horrific anger, but it was definitely a difficulty. There were times when I was driving there, and it was a 23-mile one-way drive from the house to Mayo. So it's like 46 miles there and back, and sometimes I would do that 3 times a day. And I would be in the car and I'd be driving, and it was weird. It was like a split. It was like there was a part of me that couldn't wait to get up there, and there was a part of me that did not want to go any further, and I just wanted to pull off the road because I was just pissed off. I was just mad. And that's something that I'm still kind of working on, but I never stopped loving, but I kind of stopped sometimes being patient, and even at times, and I look back on this now, and I feel bad about it, but I'm working on it. But sometimes I felt like, and not very often, but there came a point when I wasn't always as kind as I could have been. And that's the thing, is that you look back on those times and you think, good Lord, kindness is kind of the best thing we have. So what happened? And part of the caregiving also is that, and I didn't say this, but I meant to, but if you're a caregiver, ask for help, because I didn't really, and his group of people were not people that just stepped in and helped. And so I think that you almost have to like demand help. Like I can't, now I look back and I think, oh, yeah, I just wish that there were times that I would have said, hey, I can't do this. I can't do this all on my own. But I felt like I was gonna, you know, so.
It's really bared your soul on that one. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How about those sons?
Oh my gosh.
What do you think?
So,
With your extensive basketball background.
I think that with Kevin Durant, I think that they got a chance. I do. And I love Booker. What? What?
No? Well, Sam's having a baby and he wants to call the baby Booker.
Really?
Well, Sam's not having the baby, but his wife is.
Oh, woo! No, I love that name. I'm all for it. You tell Sam I said absolutely yes. And then, you know what, though? Jay's going to be pissed. Because then he can never choose that name, that, you know.
I could do Devin.
Oh, he could. Yeah, yeah.
It's not quite as cool as Booker.
I think Booker's pretty cool. Yeah. No, I love to do that. Yeah. Yeah, I love to watch the Suns. Jay sits on his couch in Davis, and I sit on my couch here, and we watch the Suns, and then we're like texting each other and stuff. So it's nice. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about owning a wine store, how that was in your journey. Was it a happenstance kind of thing, or was it something that brought you joy, or was it?
Oh my gosh. If anybody has somewhere to be and they have to head out, because this might take me 10 minutes, but so I was never fulfilled with the regular things that I felt like other people were, and I didn't know how to reconcile that. And so I owned a couple businesses. I worked for City Hall. I taught school, I taught at NAU and at CCC. I did all these things, but I never could figure out how to make money. And so I would, like, for real, this is how I opened a wine store. I was reading Food and Wine magazine one night, and there was a little article in there on people who had opened wine stores. There's this one guy, and he'd opened one, and I loved his idea. And it was like, no wine was over $10 a bottle. And I was like, well, that's pretty smart. And then I remember looking up from the magazine and saying out loud, I'm gonna open a wine store. And then I didn't, and then I did. And I don't know, even when I look back sometimes, I don't know how I got from one place to another. And it's just, and it was kind of a dissatisfaction with regular life, in a way, I think. I don't know how to describe that. And it sounds foolish. I think it sounds foolish when I say it. It's like, well, come on, you know, buck up. Just get a job, work hard, and retire after you've worked somewhere for 50 years, or 40 years, or 30 years, I don't know, whatever. But I just, yeah. It never seemed to work. I loved the wine store. Vino Loco was so great. I'll tell you what it did for me, and this was the best thing ever. I opened that wine store when Jay was 3 months old. That's my son. He's 25 now. I opened it when he was 3 months old. I opened it because I didn't want to put my child in daycare for 10 hours a day, and because I was working at City Hall. And I didn't want to put my son in daycare for 10 hours a day. So up until the time he was 7, pretty much, he hung out at the wine store. And when he was a baby, people would come in and they would carry him around while they shopped for wine. And it was lovely. And I had wonderful moms from his school and just in the neighborhood that would pick him up from school. They'd serve him dinner if I was going to be late. So I had an amazing mom support system, which I think is kind of crucial. And I think that as a society, we don't really explore that a lot. But I think that, so I loved the wine store. It was really fun. It was so much fun. And it kind of taught me how to be a little bit of a businesswoman. And I have even though I feel kind of foolish saying that I never really got into a job and then stuck with it full time for a long time, I have absolutely zero regrets, because I did some really, really, really fun things, and I learned so much. And so.
I think that's great. I think we all kind of have this idea of, what we'd like to do when we grow up. And I think most of us are not brave enough to kind of, walk the walks. I have to congratulate you on, kind of making it work and trying so many different things. Because I think most of us stay with one profession for a good part of our life and don't ease or explore until we're ready. So I admire you for that.
Thanks. It's
I don't
good.
think you have
It's
a
been
fear
good.
of precipice because you jump.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Just simply curious, where were you born?
Manhattan, Kansas.
You came west when?
Oh my gosh. Well, so, okay, because this is the truth seeker, I think. So when I was 21 years old, I had someone break into my apartment in Topeka, Kansas. And it was so terrifying and so traumatic. And I was assaulted. Okay, and so when I was 21, and it was like, I had to leave. I had to leave my town, Topeka. And so my sister lived down in Phoenix. And so within 2 weeks, I was in Phoenix. And this is a little, to me, this was probably strangely something that made me less fearful about the world, because I feel that everything that happens to us is kind of the universe. It's the universe, man, and it's guiding us, it's helping us. And even though I had this horrific thing happen to me, I've had I feel a really good life. With also, as you can tell from my past year, with horrific events. So I guess that's how I would describe it. I've had a really good life with some really horrific things. And you just keep going. You just keep swimming. So yeah. And so the question, sorry, I tangent off sometimes, was how I got here.
Just really where you were born and your journey west.
Topeka, Phoenix, Los Angeles. Gonna be an actress. I was in a couple commercials and I did a golf video, but and then decided that wasn't for me. Went to San Francisco. Loved San Francisco. Then my parents were getting older, and so I moved, and so I was writing poetry, not showing it to anyone. Heaven forbid someone see my poetry. And so I went to. So I wrote to NAU. Jim Zimmerman was the poetry teacher, or boss. And so I wrote to him and applied to come to school here, and because my parents then would be 2 hours away, which is perfect amount of distance. And he wrote to me and he said, "Yeah, we'd love to have you come and write." So, and that was 30 years ago. So I've been here longer than anywhere else. I'm here. Am I past an hour? Okay.
Where do you come next?
Oh man. I'm gonna clean. So I haven't really been at my house for 8 months, which is weird. And my house was kind of, it wasn't in great shape. So I'm fixing my house up. But then I am contemplating moving to Cottonwood. I'm just thinking about it. Because the weather here is making me crazy. And I like to kayak, and I like to hike. And I find that when I'm in Flagstaff over the winter that I don't do as much. I'm not as active. But honestly, I don't know. I don't know for sure what I'm gonna do. I sent the sheriff an email the other day saying, hey, I know that I can't come in and work at that job anymore because I'm retired, but I would love to come in and just teach poetry to the inmates. Can I do that? So, you know, I like to throw out a lot of hooks and see what I can reel in, because I want to help people. I want to keep writing. I want to be around people that I care about and love, and that's kind of my goals. So.
You do a class every week?
I do. I'm doing a class at Hope Lives, which is really nice. I like it there. So, yes, sir.
I'm Gary. I know you from
Hi, Gary.
Facebook.
I know.
I need
I'm
to
so
run.
happy you're
I
here.
can't stay.
Okay.
But I just wanted to say that as someone, you know, I used to write a lot, and I have for some time. But the short pieces that you put on Facebook that are haiku or haiku-esque, those are awesome.
Oh, thank
It's
you. Thanks.
totally got me thinking about how I can express myself in a similar form. And so I've started scribbling down a few three-line pieces or something. But I'm always trying to find a way to say more in fewer words.
Yeah.
And so it's just fantastic. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, and I'm so glad to hear that. That really
Yeah.
makes my night to hear
And I
that.
gotta
It's
head out the door.
okay. It was really nice to see you.
It was great to see you tonight.
Yeah.
To hear your work. Thanks.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Really wonderful. This has been so great. So,
Oh.
isn't this fun? And like, every month I am so touched and so inspired by the people that we have here. And I'm glad we don't use our program room. It's just, you know, it's just intimate and getting to know community. And I love it. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me, and thank you all for showing up. This is really nice.
You know,
It's good to see these faces, I tell you.
I'm so happy that you talked about creating your tagline and how that made you think. Because I did have a guest a couple of months ago, Gwendolyn Waring, who is another, she's a ecological writer and researcher and really awesome woman. And she said, when she got up here to speak, she said to the audience, everybody should think about what their tagline is. She didn't use that word, but she said knowing I was coming here to speak in this type of setting was just a really deep and enriching thing for her to do. And it feels like you really took it to heart too, in thinking about how do you describe yourself. So she encouraged everybody. She's like, so go home and think about it. Write your little bio. That's actually what she said.
Yeah.
Write your little bio and talk, you know, consider who you are and what you have to tell people. So I encourage that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, and even like write it every 5 years because of how you change as time goes on. Your bio is going to change, you
Yeah.
know. So, but good, yeah, good, nice.
Any further questions?